So if the group raises the money and goes ahead and builds the wind turbine or the solar panel, would that be enough to actually block approval for the Keystone XL? North Dakota Senator John Hoeven supports the pipeline, and he is here with his take. Senator, what's your reaction to what you just heard?
Well, look, I'm for developing all of our energy resources. We can certainly have wind and solar along with oil and gas and all the other types of energy as well. I don't know why one should block the others, and I'm not even convinced that their project would, because remember, this pipeline's underground, so they may be able to do it and still have the pipeline go underground in the same area. But again, let's develop all of our energy resources.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely going for a visual. They said that this land was along the path, and the gentleman who owns it, doesn't want to cede that land in any circumstance. So he definitely has several dogs in this fight without question. I wonder, though, when we're watching what happened in Canada with the transfer of oil on rail and the explosion that we saw and the loss of lives there, now the death toll is up to about 50 and still counting, still looking, that this oil is going to be moved no matter what. So maybe putting in a pipeline is the safest thing to do.
Melissa, what happened in Quebec is tragic. That, in fact, is oil that came from North Dakota and that could be moving by pipeline. So clearly, we need this vital pipeline infrastructure. This is about moving more product, doing it safely. For example, the Keystone XL pipeline will take 500 trucks a day off our roads just in my state of North Dakota alone. So what we're trying to do is use the latest, greatest technology, working with Canada to develop all of our energy resources and become energy independent so we don't have to bring in oil from Venezuela or the Middle East. This is something we ought to work on together, and we can.
The gentleman that came before you doesn't want that oil in our country, whether it's by rail or it's by pipeline, no matter how it gets here, he doesn't want it. How many people do you think are like that? How strong is the opposition?
In latest polling, something like 70 to 80% of the people in the country support building the Keystone XL pipeline. So it's overwhelming support. And when you see something like what happened in Quebec happen, our hearts and prayers go out to those people. We want to do things as well as we can with the right kind of infrastructure and with the greatest safety.
Where do you think the president is going to ultimately come down on this? I mean, environmental activists are rallying outside a fundraiser that he is at, this evening on this very issue, trying to dissuade him from approving it or from lending his support. How do you think he's going to ultimately react in the long run?
Melissa, that goes right back to your last question. I think almost 80% of the people in the latest poll in this country want this project built for energy security. He needs to make a decision for the American people, not for special interest groups that oppose it.
Yeah, but what's your bet on what he's actually going to do?
I think he'll approve it now. We have put an awful lot of pressure on him. The last vote, when I submitted legislation on this, we got 62 votes in the United States Senate supporting the Keystone XL pipeline project. So I think we've put enough pressure on him. I think he will approve it now, but we'll see. And I hope by the end of August. That's what we're pushing for.
Before I let you go, I just want to ask you about the visual. I mean, it's pretty clever of this group trying to put up renewable energy in the path. Do you think that would cause any kind of a slowdown? I mean, if you're trying to take this land to make the pipeline and they're sitting there with a solar panel if they do it and maybe one wind turbine powering it up and they've made it a community center, do they achieve the visual?
Hard to say. Remember, we've already rerouted once in Nebraska to accommodate concerns in the state. And for example, in my state, we have all of the above. We have oil and gas, we have wind, and we have solar. They can coexist. So we'll see. But again, let's find ways to get things done, not to block things.
Senator, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Time to check the fuel gauge.